Huh? Well, oars to cross an ocean would be difficult. So what do we need to cross an ocean? What do they eat? Sails. And what?
Wind.
Wind. You need favorable winds. Favorable winds can help guide the boat very smoothly across the ocean. And so the favorable winds are compared to the Shastra, the scriptures. So instead of this human form of life, it is like a very able boat. But it needs a captain. It needs someone to help direct it, to help steer it. And the captain and the boat rely upon the favorable winds, the guidance, the guiding principles of Scripture to navigate across this ocean, this samsara dhava. So this is an analogy that is given about the boat and the captain. Right? And we said that we have so many teachers in our life, from simply learning to drive a car, to play the piano, tennis, calculus, physics, so many things. We have teachers, right? So we accept knowledge from them. We accept it as fact. So the question is, when it comes to spirituality, can we really figure this out on our own, through our own analysis? It's very difficult. Right? So we have no choice, but we must approach some bona fide authority. But it's not about blind surrender. You don't just go to anybody to ask you to teach you how to play tennis or how to play the piano or to learn anything. What do you look for in a teacher? Is there experience?
Do they seem knowledgeable?
Do they have knowledge?
Qualified.
Are they qualified? And do you judge qualified? Let's take the example of a tennis teacher, because they have a really nice racket and a nice tennis outfit. Does that make them qualified? No, you must go deeper than that to see, are they really qualified? Right? So today we'll speak a little bit about, not a little bit, but a fair bit about who is a guru and how we don't become misled by some symptoms that we may observe, like a nice dress, or maybe some other things we see that may say, oh, this must be a guru. So let's see who can teach us, because we do analysis to take the right teacher in all aspects of life. So in our spiritual life, we can always take the teacher, because we know once we get a teacher, what is our responsibility? We should learn. We should follow. And we should follow with faith. If the doctor says, take this yellow pill, what do?
Take it.
Do you really know what's in that pill? Do you really know how it's going to interact in your body? No. But why do you take it?
Faith.
You have some faith in that doctor. So you're willing to accept the instruction. And if he says take 2 pills, how many pills will you take?
2.
And if he says take 1, you follow the instructions. It's not blind faith. You didn't just ask anyone on the street, hey, can you tell me how to cure my ailment? No, you went to a bona fide doctor, you put your faith in that person, and then you received instructions. So in the same way with Guru, we're not going to put our faith blindly, aimlessly. We're going to see how to find a bona fide. But then, if the doctor says take that pill and we enter into a month-long debate about the merits of that pill, what happens? We continue to get sick. We continue to deteriorate. So there is a point in which we must cross that chasm. But we do so informed, not blindly. Right? So the Guru is our spiritual coach. The Guru is the coach who teaches us, who guides us in how to apply the principles of Scripture for the perfection of life. Just as Krishna had only one goal in speaking to Arjuna. What was his singular goal in speaking to Arjuna? To enlighten everyone. To help him. Right? To show him the path to get out from his distressed condition. So what is the goal of any bona fide guru? to help come to a path of perfection. That is the goal. So let us read this 8th verse. Somebody would like to read the 8th verse? You can read the English, that's fine. Or the Sanskrit if you like.
Now I am confused about my duty.
No, next one, 8th verse. Next one.
Oh.
Which page?
Page on 72 of the hardbound.
I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a
Prosperous.
unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven.
Someone can read the first paragraph. We'll just take turns.
Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of the spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were tying up his whole existence, and it was impossible for him to solve such perplex ties without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problem of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problem of life. Lord Chaitanya said that one who is a master is the signs of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master.
Next paragraph.
Yes, it does not matter whether a person is a Vipra, learned scholar in Vedic wisdom, or is born in a lower family, or is in the renounced order of life. If he is the master in the science of Krishna, he is a perfect and bona fide spiritual master. So without being a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literature.
Someone can, next paragraph.
A scholarly Brahmana, expert in all the subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava, or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person born in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or a Krishna conscious.
The problem of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death cannot be counteracted by accumulation of wealth and economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed. Yet, the problem of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real happiness only if they consult Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitute the science of Krishna. Through the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness.
If economic development and material comforts could drive away one's lamentations for family, social, national or international inebriates, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planets would be unable to drive away his lamentations. He sought therefore refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the cataclysms of material nature. Even elevation into a higher planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Shine punye martyat lokam visanti. When the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in that way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, If we want to curb lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna, as Arjuna is seeking to do. So Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problem definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness.
So Arjuna is speaking now after saying he has lost all composure and he needs help. He now says, I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Now, at some phase of our life, we think, if I just had a few extra zeros in my bank account, if I just had, this title in my job, and if I just got this one more thing, everything would be perfect. Anybody has had that thought in their life? Every day. Thank you for being honest. It's true. Now Arjuna is saying, even if I had an unrivaled kingdom, if you had a huge kingdom, what is your biggest fear? Someone's going to attack and take it away. He's saying even if there was no threat of it being taken away, unrivaled, no one could conquer. We think, well, then I'd be happy, right? But Arjuna is saying even that was not able to dispel his grief, right? So we know that wealth can only buy so many things, but it can't buy love, friends, happiness. Maybe friends for a short amount of time, but real friends? Ask the rich. What is your biggest concern in relationships with people? Do they like me or my wealth? That's what they don't know. It's a great concern. We can't contemplate that if we're not in that position. That is a great concern. So Arjuna had the opportunity. There was no doubt Arjuna was going to win the battle. He was such an inconquerable warrior. There was no doubt he was going to win. His point was, even if I won it, it wouldn't give me the relief from the distress I'm in. So, and we have some practical way to evaluate. Prabhupada makes the comment in the purport that how we can see that wealth is not necessarily the key to happiness. It is not that if you have wealth you could be, but it means it's not the necessary way to achieve happiness. What example or where does Srila Prabhupada lead us in the purport to evaluate whether this is a fact or not?
But again, we need bare minimum, right?
We need the bare minimum.
Yeah.
That's no doubt. We need subsistence. We have to live and feed the body. That is for sure. But we see one thing. Across the world, there are rich countries and there are poorer countries. Is there not?
Problems still exist all throughout.
Problems exist everywhere. Are the rich countries happier necessarily than the poorer countries? If it was material wealth that was going to define our success and happiness, we would see it. Some of us came to this country from another place in search of happiness, right? A better life, a better opportunity. And in some ways we have found it, in some ways we have not. Sometimes we know the world is wealthier and has more technology and more success today than it did 100 years ago. That we know for sure. More conveniences, cell phones, cooking utensils, airplanes, fast vehicles, so many things. But can we say life is better today? We have more peace, more time, higher values. Well, we can't say that. So we know that that's not necessarily the case. So, taking a general view, how do we define success? What are some common ways that we define success?
When you are satisfied with your position.
We're satisfied. Yeah.
Whatever you're doing or wherever you are, you're just happy inside.
Okay, so that's the goal of success. But how does society maybe define success?
With wealth,
Wealth,
titles.
titles,
Fame.
so big degrees, lots of money, fame. Okay, I have kind of fame. Right? Climbing the corporate ladder, top of the pyramid, I got it. Right? These are ways in which we, and that's what's propelled us through so many endeavors in our life. Right? But what is the fundamental challenge in all of this?
Keeping it.
Keeping it temporary. No matter how much intelligence you have can have a Harvard, MIT, IIT degree. Is it going to solve old age? Is it going to solve death? Is it going to solve disease? You can have all the wealth in the world. Is it going to stop the difficulties from coming about on you? No. Maybe relatively, yeah. You won't have to worry where my bread will come tomorrow or what roof will be over my head. But beyond that, it won't. Right? So all the material knowledge we have, it relates to the body. Think about it. All the degrees, all the wealth, all the fame, all the... And anything related to the body means it will be temporary and limited. It'll have some benefit, no doubt. But it's temporary and limited. So when Srila Prabhupada went to the university, he said, I'm seeing these big departments, science department, biology department, math department, physics department. And what question he asked?
There's no soul department.
Where is the soul department? Where are you teaching people about the spirit soul? If your goal in giving education and mathematics and that is to bring about success in life, where are you teaching them about how to find real success in life, permanent success in life? You're just teaching them how to eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and defend nicely. It sounds almost foolish for me to say that. But if we objectively analyze, what is these big degrees and big bank accounts? What are they getting us to do? Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. The same thing all other species of life do. Yeah, maybe fancier, maybe a little bit more sophisticatedly, but the activity is nonetheless the same. So, Prabhupada is commenting from the verse that Arjuna is saying, is that this material success will not give us the ultimate happiness. Yeah, it can better our situation relative to others. And what Krishna is going to show us in this Bhagavad Gita is how to bring this material success to spiritual success. Because when you have spiritual success, you'll have success in all aspects of your life. It is not a trade-off. You'll have success in all aspects, including the eating and sleeping piece of it. Trust me, you won't eat any better than a devotee does. Those of you who come to the program, and you'll sleep very nice because you have a nice peaceful mind. But the point is, we must start at the core of who we are. And so when we come to that conclusion that the MIT and Harvard and IIT degrees are not going to give me that, then I must search for more knowledge, right? I must search for more knowledge. And so Krishna will say in the 34th verse of the 4th chapter, Tadvidi paripatena pariprashtena sevaya bhakdekshanti te ganam jnaninas tattva darshina. What does he say we must do? Someone wants to read the translation?
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth.
So Arjuna has approached Guru. And Krishna in the 4th chapter, the title of the 4th chapter is Transcendental Knowledge. To get this knowledge that's transcendental beyond just this body and comes to the topic of the soul, how must we find that knowledge? What teacher must we find? A spiritual master. Right? So we'll discuss this a little bit. So now we said we're not going to approach anyone who seems to know how to fly airplanes to teach us how to fly an airplane. We're not going to approach anyone to teach us how to do open heart surgery who has a stethoscope and a little hat on and maybe a badge on their lapel. Why? Why aren't we going to approach anyone?
Because we're not supposed to just have blind faith.
We're not supposed to. And what could happen if we have blind faith?
Crisis.
Disaster.
Crisis, huh?
Disaster.
Disaster. If someone who doesn't know how to fly a plane is going to teach you how to fly a plane, anybody's ready to sign up for such university? No. Even if it's cheap, even if it's readily available, because we're not going to put our life in the hands of faulty knowledge. So if we're going to decide who is going to guide us on this journey of life for our soul, we must make some inquiry into who is a spiritual master. So in the purport, Prabhupada comments about some of the qualities of a spiritual master. Anybody remember any of them? Or just what you might think? We'll talk about qualities of a spiritual master and what are not qualities as well. We'll talk about both. So who is a spirit? Who is a guru?
Yeah, he
What
talks.
disciplic succession?
Okay, comes in disciplic succession. One, you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying, I mean, he's not talking himself, but he's delivering the knowledge. He considers himself as a medium of giving knowledge, not himself, right?
Wow, that's a perfect. I'm going to have a graphic on that. But he's a medium of delivering knowledge. He's not coming up with the knowledge. That's a very important point, and that relates to parampara. What are some other qualifications?
He practices what he preaches.
Oh, very nice. Not a hypocrite. He practices what is preached. There's a word for that we'll discuss. Any other qualifications we think?
Having Krishna consciousness. that is a basic thing.
He must know about the soul. He must know about Krishna. He must know the science of that detail. He must have knowledge.
Knowledge of all the Vedas,
Huh?
not scriptural knowledge.
He should have scriptural knowledge. And we're going to define what scriptural knowledge means. Right? So, in the scriptures, we see great detail on who is a guru. And this is important because there are many people who go out and claim they're gurus. So many bogus gurus exist today. Unfortunately, we live in a cheating society. You know, we see it in the business world. We see it, why the IRS is such a gigantic institution. Because people don't pay their taxes honestly. It's a nature. It's a cheating propensity. So it also exists in the spiritual realm. People claiming spiritual knowledge. So the scriptures comment heavily. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is the verse that's discussed, it says, it does not matter whether a person is a vipra, which means learned in the Vedic wisdom, or born in a lower family, or is in a renounced order of life. If he is a master in the science of Krishna, as you were saying, he is perfect and bona fide spiritual master. In the Padma Purana, a scholarly Brahmana, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become spiritual master without being a Vaishnava, or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. It means just having knowledge is one thing, but you must be applying it. You must be practicing it. But a person born in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna conscious. So what is not one of the requirements for a guru?
Well,
Wealth.
The caste to which you belong to.
Yeah. In India, we have this understanding of these different castes. That is relevant or irrelevant? According to you and I, or according to?
Krishna.
According to Scripture. Very important point. This verse is not quoted in the purport, but this is the first verse in the Sri Upadeshamrita, which is Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaro Pashto Vegam. These 6 Vegams. These are urges. Urges of the mind, urges of the tongue, the urges of anger, the urges of the belly, of the genitals. These urges, one who can control them. One who can control those, who has them under control, is qualified to make disciples. So, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. Speaking, mind, Krodha, anger. Jiva, the tongue, Udaro, and Pashto, Vegam. These 6 urges, one who can control, can make sasishyat, disciples. Krishna will say in the 2nd verse of the 4th chapter, Evam parampara prapta mimam rajarsa viduhu sakala neha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. He says this knowledge comes in disciplic succession, meaning it is passed down. Evam parampara. This is how all the great kings had understood this knowledge. So we'll talk about that. So, qualifications of a guru. When we say fully knowledgeable in Shastra, anybody care to define what it means to be fully knowledgeable in Shastra?
He knows the theoretical and practical applications of the Shastra.
He knows the theoretical and practical applications of the Shastra. That's very, very important. Any other? That was virtually what I was looking for, but anybody else want? I can add, or maybe he understands the essence of it. Just reciting Shastra doesn't have value unless one understands the essence of that Shastra. Right? Just like you can memorize some formulas in a mathematics class. But if you don't know how to put them together and what is the purpose of those, you don't really have full command. Although you can seem very knowledgeable. If I sit here and recite verses after verses after verses, I'll seem very knowledgeable. But the question is, have I understood the essence of what those verses are speaking? And as you said, how is the practical implication for me to apply that knowledge? That means knowledge of Shastra. You have a question?
yeah, what is Shastra?
Shastra, thank you. That's scripture. Scripture.
Will the context will also come into the picture?
Yeah.
For example, knowledgeable is all about, even though you know how to apply, you know what it is, but if you don't know the context with which you can apply that, I mean, there might be a situation where you don't apply that knowledge, right, because it's not needed there, right? It's not, it may have different ramifications.
And that is why actually some will argue, well, if I have these scriptures, I have Srila Prabhupada's purports, I have this, why I can just study myself. But the time, place, and circumstance of the application requires that fine-tuning. That is what a guru does. To apply it in the time, place, and circumstance. Because for one, a set of instructions may make most sense, but for another, a slightly different. It does not mean the guru is vacillating, but he is assessing the context, as you said very nicely, the context of the situation, and applying, just like a doctor doesn't give the same medicine to everybody. Based on the context, he applies the medication. A guru applies the medicine, a spiritual help, based on that. So that's part of the knowledge. And must have knowledge to clear our doubts. If we have doubts or questions, the guru should be able to answer those on the basis of Shastra, not speculate. You ask a question, oh my God, I don't know, I'm just going to make it up and wing it. It's not. No, the guru must have conclusive evidence and knowledge to rid us of that doubt. Because when we become free of our doubts, then we can move forward with some faith. Just like that doctor says, take the pills. If I'm understanding, take it. Fully sense controlled. We're going to talk about the importance of sense control in the last 18 some verses of this chapter. It's a very important part. You may wonder why I have to control the senses. Krishna's going to say you don't have to control them, you have to apply them correctly. But an uncontrolled senses can lead to disaster. Guru must be acharya. Practice what preaches. The actions should speak louder than the words. That is the meaning of acharya. Not one who has vast knowledge that is shown and coming in bona fide parampara. This is extraordinarily important. So, parampara means it is coming in what we say disciplic succession. Krishna has absolute knowledge. He was there at the time of beginning of everything. He's the only one that has complete knowledge. Everyone else is dependent on some other source of information. We are dependent on some source to know what our parents did in their childhood. I always go back to that example. And our parents are dependent on some source to know their parents. Eventually it comes to Krishna. Krishna has complete knowledge. Everyone else has dependent knowledge. And so through parampara, the knowledge comes from Krishna down through disciplic succession. And how disciplic succession works, we'll talk about in a couple slides. And what doesn't matter? Birth. Birth. Doesn't matter if I'm tall or short, rich or poor, light or dark, wealthy, doesn't matter. Even intelligent. In this verse it says, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit unless one knows the essence of that knowledge. So we may find many great speakers of what we call spiritual pious entertainment. But that doesn't necessarily qualify. So who is not a guru? You don't just buy a costume on Amazon. I actually found this costume on Amazon.
That's
It's
great.
crazy. Sense control. I may look very sense control, but in my mind I'm meditating on cakes and pizzas and cookies. And unfortunately other things that are worse than that. And it is not a business relationship. It is not a relationship of business. And we'll speak about what is the relationship between guru and disciple. So, as Prabhu mentioned, guru is like,
Mailman.
what does a mailman do?
Deliver
Deliver
knowledge.
the message.
And what don't they do?
Make stuff up.
No diluted.
They don't write the letters. They don't write anything. They simply deliver the message. That is guru.
As it is.
As it is. Without any, they don't open the letter and add a few adjectives, change a few words. No, this is not right. No. Sealed envelope from origin to recipient. Guru is sending the message. Who is the origin?
Krishna.
And who is the recipient?
You.
So the guru is like a postman. Does not write them down. And we said this parampara, right? It's like these power poles. What do power poles do?
Transfer.
They carry the line, right? Do they generate any power?
No.
They simply carry it forward.
Parampara.
Just carry it forward. A power pole, it has value if it's in line carrying this power. If I have a power pole out to the side here, does it have any value? Why?
Not connected.
It's not connected. It's not connected back to the source. What's the source in this illustration? The power plant. Who is the power plant of all knowledge? So a guru must be connected in disciplic succession. Meaning, who did you hear from? Who did you hear from? Who did they hear from? Who did they hear from? Ultimately, we should be able to trace it back to. Shall we now open to page 30 of the Bhagavad Gita? What do you see here? Disciplic succession. Prabhupada is not claiming authorship to this Bhagavad Gita. He is saying it is coming, and this is the disciplic succession. Page 30.
30.
30.
Yeah, 30.
This is the bona fide spiritual master.
So
Yeah.
the operation is critical. The 32 names are here, right? And right from Krishna. So, in terms of knowledge delivery and in terms of if you add their ages, I don't know, they can live more than 100 years and
Yeah, many
can
did.
correlate that way, or
Yeah, you can. I mean, Brahma lives for 311 trillion years.
correct. No, it's starting from one, right?
Yeah, from Krishna, the Brahmas too. The Narada, Vyasa, Madhava. So in the early days, people lived for many. More recent, yes.
Correct.
But Jagannath Das Babaji was about 130, 136 or something in that range. He lived quite a. That was just a few hundred years ago. So yeah, there were much longer lifespans.
And what is the duration of this whole from first to 32? I mean, if at all we have, or
Yeah, it's written somewhere. I don't know remember the exact numbers. So I don't want to quote it, but it is written there. And there are a few different disciplic successions. This is one. There are several bona fide disciplic successions also. But the point is, knowledge must come from the source. So someone may present some great philosophy, may sound very logical. But if someone is explaining to you how to fly a plane and they're saying to take this kind of thrust and this kind of, they can sound very knowledgeable, but do you know? Do you know? So the one test for us is, what is the disciplic succession? Because it has to come from Krishna. Otherwise, we're not the postman. Any own idea, I had a vision. God came and spoke to me. Yeah, you may have some vision, but your knowledge must be substantiated through parampara. And that is what Krishna says. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasya vidhu. That is not the speaking of one acharya. That is the speaking of Krishna, who is the source of all this knowledge. And so now, yeah.
Number 5, Madhava, is that lordship?
No. No. It's Madhva, but that's not Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has a disciplic succession. Lord Brahma is the predominator of this Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. That's a technical name of the Sampradaya. No quiz on that later. And then there is the Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Sanat Sampradaya. And of the Rudra Sampradaya, Lord Shiva is the predominator. But not in what we commonly know as the Shivites who are worshipping Lord Shiva as supreme. But this is actually a Vaishnava Sampradaya. So in the Guru process, there's also a check and balance system. Because we don't want to become bewildered, we must not be just blind faith. So there is a check and balance system, and it's called Guru Sadhu Shastra. What is Guru Sadhu Shastra? Guru speaks what comes from Shastra and what has been spoken by the previous acharyas. So, what the Guru is speaking must be substantiated by the prior acharyas and by Shastra. And if Guru begins to speak in conflict with Shastra or the prior acharyas, that qualification of guru has been negated. And so our test, our understanding should be, are they speaking from Shastra and what the prior acharyas have spoken? And if you see in Srila Prabhupada's presentation of Bhagavad Gita, his purports primarily come from the commentaries of Srila Baladev Vidubhushan and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Two acharyas, number 28 and 27. And it's primarily the commentaries he is drawing his purports from. They're not Prabhupada's own concoction. Even the purports are derived from the prior commentary. And you can see throughout the purport, just like in this verse, he's quoting from scripture, from Shastra. Any point he makes, he substantiates with Shastra. So this is the position of Guru. So what is our position as disciple? So we understand the qualification of Guru. We understand what is a disqualification of Guru. What is our qualification or responsibility as disciple? I got it listed here. My prompting is not working, so that's okay. This is the easy questions.
We should be keen and willing to learn.
We should be willing to learn, surrender. Not blindly, but surrender. I surrender to the doctor's instruction to take the pill. I should be ready to follow this. Otherwise, what is the point of taking a guru? It is not a fashion statement. It is not a badge of honor. It is, I need help, as Arjuna said. So one must be ready to follow the instructions completely. Not pick and choose. I like this instruction, I don't like that instruction. Doctor says, take this pill and don't eat sweets. Do you get to pick and choose? Well, I don't like the sweets restriction. I'm not going to take that one. I'll take the med. It doesn't work that way. You have to take the totality. So that must be our mood. Ready to follow the instructions of Guru. Then, if we go into the classroom with the headphones on and blindfolds, what are we going to learn? So the heart has to open. And what does it take to surrender?
Like when I had to ask what these words mean.
Yeah. It takes some humility. You know what? I am not the almighty, all-powerful. Yes, I have my MIT, IIT, Harvard degree. But I can't solve this. That takes some humility. Right? So that is one of the great qualifications.
Is realization is also the need of fundamental guidance.
Yeah, that's the start.
That's the start.
That's the start. Until that internal realization comes, Arjuna realized it. Wait a minute. An unrivaled kingdom isn't going to dispel my situation. He came to that conclusion. We all have to come to that conclusion too, and that's individual. That has to come from us. From objective assessment. Yeah, we can rationalize anything. But that's a nice point. We have to come to that realization. Then we can surrender to Guru. Until that happens, we cannot surrender. Until I know I'm sick, I'm not going to go to the doctor. And sometimes in that I'm not sick, And it carries on. We're saying I'm not sick. I can make a very extreme statement. It's a fact. We are all extraordinarily sick in this body consciousness. We are attached to flesh, blood, urine, stool, bile, this body. Think about the world revolves around this attachment. And it is just a bag of filth. If you really want to be objective. Maybe we don't have to come to that realization yet, but we come and realize there's something more. There's a bigger opportunity. There's a better path forward for me. And what is the next thing we should do as a disciple? The second thing.
Try to practice what we
practice,
Learning.
apply. And if we don't know,
We should inquire with the submissive mood, not with the challenging, trying to challenge the Guru.
we should inquire submissive. Krishna says in this verse, he doesn't say approach the Guru. He says, inquire from him. Why inquire?
Because we don't know.
Because we don't know. If we don't resolve our doubts, our questions, they will haunt us. They will limit our progress. So Krishna said, you inquire. This idea that, hey, Guru speaks, you be quiet, you just follow, no questions. That's bogus. All of our scriptures are question, answer, question. We're going to see Arjuna will open most chapters with questions. And then Krishna will speak. Krishna did not speak to Arjuna until Arjuna asked him to speak. So our role as disciples is to ask questions, but ask in a mood of inquiry, not in a mood of debate. If you want to have a debate, have it with someone else. Don't waste your time or the time of Guru. But inquire exhaustively. All your questions we should reveal. Open the heart fully. Don't be shy. Because then when the questions are revealed and answered, then we can be free from the weights of doubt. So inquiry is extraordinarily important. And that's why Vyasadeva says, Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now that you've inquired the human form of life, you should inquire. Ask questions. And finally, service. Why service?
Because that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. But why should we serve Guru?
He's like he's the closest representative of God, Vishnu.
He is a representative of the Lord.
It's a gratitude we are showing.
There's a gratitude. When you go to university, what do you have to do?
Right?
You have to pay fees. You have to pay some tuition. If you go to the doctor, what do you have to do?
Okay.
You have to take a piano lesson. Okay. How are you going to put a value on the knowledge that Guru will give you?
Service tax.
Only thing you can do is render service. That is a reciprocation. That is the Guru Dakshina. That one must do as a reciprocation for that knowledge that has been received. And what is the dakshina that a bona fide guru wants?
Follow his instructions.
Just follow his instruction.
Follow his instructions and
Submit to him.
And deliver knowledge to someone else.
yes. Why deliver knowledge to someone else?
That will be the Guru.
What is the guru's mission?
To teach
Spread
us.
the
Spread the knowledge.
To spread the knowledge, say the name. So the disciple helps, assists in whatever way they can. Of course, they cannot perform at the level of Guru, but one reciprocates by assisting, by rendering any service Guru asks, in helping to follow the instructions. When this relationship is there, it's extraordinarily powerful. When there is a qualified speaker and a qualified listener, then something can happen. If you have a great speaker, but you don't have a good listener, anything can happen?
No.
If you have a good listener, but not a good speaker, anything can happen? But when you have a qualified guru with a qualified disciple, then extraordinary things can happen. So we should try to make ourselves qualified, and then we can find and approach a bona fide guru, and then extraordinary things can happen. And what extraordinary thing can happen? It is the perfection of our life, this peace and happiness, this wonderful experience of Krishna consciousness. So,
But we are all, generally, we are in the journey, right? And this is the final.
no, this is the beginning. When did Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita?
In terms of achieving that state that you said, right? I mean, perfection state, right? I mean, we are practicing this, we are.
Fair, fair. Fair.
trying to be like that.
We're entering the university
Yeah.
in the first year.
Yeah.
But we're entering the university. That is the goal. Because Arjuna surrendered to Krishna to take knowledge in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. At the end, he says, Karishye vachanam tava. Now I'm prepared to follow as you say. He was a surrendered disciple. He had inquired, and now he is ready to follow. So, we are reading this Bhagavad Gita to find the practical applications for all of us. And so Arjuna is laying a very important foundational state of mind. We must come to the point at some point in our own thought process that yes, I can't figure this out on my own. I need some help. I should inquire and begin. And that spirit comes to the study of the Bhagavad Gita, then the knowledge will be revealed to us. Okay? Any questions or comments?
Disciple can become guru's guru, right?
Hmm?
Disciple, like someone.
Yeah, disciple will ultimately, if they perfect, they become guru in the next succession. But they don't flip and become guru of guru. But they can become the next generation of guru. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, everyone should become guru. Everyone should become fully versed in this knowledge and help everyone become Krishna conscious. So as a disciple matures, they can then pass on that information, just like that telephone pole that's passing on. Person to person. Yes.
This surrender, inquiry and service, is it applicable only in spiritual matters?
No,
Or
it applies to you and your wife and to and son as well. You can apply it in any. It applies to you and your dog. It applies to all relationships. Right? This is a recipe for a successful relationship. But the relationship that really matters is our relationship with Krishna. Because with that, all of our other relationships become very enriched. It doesn't mean that we ignore all those relationships, but they become enriched. Yes, it applies to them in spiritual. It applies with you and your boss. Right? That's how it works.
But sometimes it will be taken for granted if you follow this.
Yeah, that's the material world. There are side effects. There are dangers at every step. Being humble is weak in the material world, right? But it's great strength in spiritual context. And we'll see, it actually takes strength to be humble. It's actually easy to be prideful. It takes great strength to be humble.
And it's all about how you look at it too.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Humility is not weakness. Humility is not, I'm going to suffer. Arjuna, at the end, what is he going to do? He's going to fight as valiant as ever been fought in the history of the world. In this great epic battle. He was not being weak, but he was very humble. Bhim, strong, powerful warrior. So spirituality is not weak.
We are learning about Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. How Prabhupada is being guru for all of us. Like, could you please share about Prabhupada? What is the role of Prabhupada in the whole society?
Yeah, I chuckled because that's a long discussion to even touch the surface of Prabhupada's contributions. Srila Prabhupada is our param guru. He is our kind of umbrella guru who is guiding us. How? Because he has written so many books and commentaries that we can read and study. And it is like a one-on-one discussion. We just had a one-on-one discussion with Srila Prabhupada by reading his purports. So he is the source of all of the knowledge we'll apply. And he is our what we call founder acharya, meaning the one who practiced what he preached and established this process of Krishna consciousness as we are following. So he is our eternal param guru. and guiding us. But as we mentioned, why then we need a guru today? A Diksha Guru. Huh?
Because he's not here?
He's not here. So he is our guiding guru, but we still need some specific. We didn't talk about the different types of gurus. But specifically, there's this Diksha Guru, which is this initiation process, in which one is connected formally into this parampara, back to, what's the source?
Krishna.
That pipe coming from Krishna is connected by person, directly into our heart. And that is the process of Diksha, or initiation. So, that is the role of Diksha Guru. But Srila Prabhupada is our Param Guru, having provided everything one needs to know. And that's why he worked so intensely to leave these books, to be the guiding principles for all of us.
Till this name 31st, there was no establishment as such. You know? Like the Saraswati, the 31st name, right? They have given preached the knowledge, but not through institutions. They are just
There's the Gaudiya Math. The Gaudiya Math was Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur's institution.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still alive in India today. So Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur had many disciples, of which one of them was Srila Prabhupada. So the Gaudiya Math is there today. They preach the same thing, exact same philosophy. 100 exact same philosophy. Because it's all coming from the, right? But so it's a different institution, but it's coming in the same. But Srila Prabhupada fulfilled the order of his spiritual master in bringing this knowledge to the world by translating it into English. Until then, none of this knowledge existed in the English language. Because from English, now it's in over 70 languages of the world. And that is the great service Srila Prabhupada did. In addition to establishing 108 spiritual hospitals all over the world, these temples. In addition to initiating 5,000 disciples, of which now many are gurus who are accepting disciples. But Srila Prabhupada, there are institutions. Yeah. I think so.
So we have one question, like we can find a bona fide guru, but we should also be accepted as a disciple by the guru, right?
Yeah.
So that also applies, right?
Yeah. Just like you can say I want to go to IIT, but they have to accept you also.
Yeah.
Like you want to accept them, but they have to accept you. So similar like that. So in a guru, we approach the guru and we express our desire. Please take me under your shelter. And when you think I'm qualified and ready, please accept me as your formal disciple. And there's a specific process within ISKCON and how that works. But one receives the Guru's mercy from the moment of expression. But yes, the Guru, so we must follow certain things, for certain minimum qualifications. And Guru, out of his compassion, trust me, we're never qualified to be a disciple of a bona fide Guru. We're never qualified. But the Guru will see there's some sincere desire, and they'll overlook all of the things that are misqualified and help us eventually become qualified.
So what certain things can you do to work towards that?
So, the main things are steadiness and chanting. So the steadiness and chanting is the core of our spiritual progress because it gives the essence of what we do. So steadiness and chanting is defined as chanting 16 rounds a day. That's the dosage, not 1 pill, 2 pills, but there's a dosage, right? How many milligrams so the dosage that's recommended is the 16 rounds of chanting. And following the 4 regulator principles. That's really the essence. From that, steadiness in that, and then then the Guru will accept you and then begin to help teach us in the finer principles. That is the baseline. So we can, try to work towards that. Just like anything, you're not going to go out and run a marathon if you haven't run in your whole life. So you're not going to be able to go tomorrow and chant, but you can in short order. begin just step by step, little bit more, and very quickly you can come together. And along the way of preparing, trust me, you'll find great benefit and bliss and happiness. And remember, Guru comes to us by the arrangement of Krishna.
Guru, so one more thing. When we do chanting, again we understand the mind is full of thoughts. It's a database, right? Of whatever we sense and touch and hear. So when we do chanting, it is going to be occupied with this kind of spiritual mindset, so that it aligns us in the materialistic world also. Right?
Yeah, we want to try to be as attentive as we can in our chanting. But we should not be discouraged when the mind wanders. Just pull it back. It's going to wander. I always give the example of hitting tennis balls. When you go to the tennis court, it's going to go this way, behind you sometimes. It's going to go all over the place. Do you quit? No, you keep practicing. And eventually it'll go where you want it. The mind is like that. It takes practice. Years of practice. Not a couple hours of practice. But it'll happen. So when the mind wanders, we bring it back. But there are some things we can do to help encourage the controlling of the mind. One, chant out loud. Chanting out loud engages the tongue, the ears, and hopefully the mind. We see a picture of Krishna, see the Bhagavad Gita, something that engages the eyes. Why we chant on beads? Because the sense of touch and touching these holy beads engages a further sense. So these things can help propel us. Chanting at a fixed time. Not while we're driving. Again, initially, we have to do things to kind of adjust. But as we progress, we want to become a little bit more fixed. So those kind of things. And if you really want success, chant in the morning. The morning is when the mind is the calmest. Rise early.
Is there a certain time?
Yes, there is. It is called the Brahma Muhurta. It is 2.5 hours before sunrise. Starting at approximately 4:30. We have a conference call that people join at 5 a.m. every morning. And they chant together. Why? Because it's kind of encouraging, right? Because getting up early is hard. It's difficult. But once you start, you'll find, wow. Try it. Yesterday began the holy month of Purushottam. It's a very holy month that occurs every 3 or 4 years. It's kind of like leap year, but based on the lunar calendar. And early morning chanting in this month is extraordinarily auspicious. One gets the benefits of chanting thousands of rounds for every single round they do. And doing it in that morning time period is called the Brahma Muhurta. Each day, part of the day is broken up into different parts. So this early morning has this very auspicious, and you'll try it, it's very powerful. But 4:30 is not in the cards, 6 o'clock. And then one practical thing, whatever time you're getting up now, back it up 15 minutes. And then back it up another 15 minutes. And within a month or two, you can get up. And the key to early to rise,
Early to sleep.
early to bed. Early to bed, early to rise. You're still getting the same amount of sleep, you're just shifting the time of it. But that'll help in your chanting. Yes.
So what this means is intelligence, mind and senses will get aligned, and that will bring focus to whatever the activities we are doing.
Intelligence has to control the mind. Intelligence, the mind, be quiet. How the intelligence, I should tell my senses to be quiet. Until I acquire knowledge, I don't know what the dangers are of sense control or not sense control. Right? So the knowledge empowers the intelligence to control the mind.
This sense control process, are we going to miss the enjoyment in the sense and what we are having now?
If it is, no one would show up. Just being blunt. If we said you give up these things and you pick up these activities, the only way you will pick up these activities and give up those activities is why? What's the only reason you'll do it?
Benefit?
If they're better. You will take activity B and give up activity A only if it's better. You get more happiness out of it. That's it. The only criteria you're going to judge is I'm going to get more happiness out of activity B or activity A. Right? So when we say sense control, that's why I mentioned earlier, very subtle, it's not control, it's engagement. Krishna says you use all your senses. You see wonderful things, you eat wonderful things, you hear wonderful things, you engage all of them. But engage them with something that will give you more happiness. And he'll say towards the end of the second chapter, propelled by the higher taste. Meaning, when I taste this nice spiritual activity, naturally all of my other tastes will slowly dissipate. Just like my famous example, if someone gives you a hot, fluffy puri, nobody wants a dry, stale, 2-day-old chapati. Is it difficult to give up a dry, stale, 2-day-old chapati if you have a hot, fluffy puri waiting for you? No. If you haven't eaten in 7 days, how nice that dry, stale chapati is.
Delicious.
It's perfect. Bliss. But it's bliss relative to your hunger. Right? So all the things that Krishna is going to tell us, you let go. He's saying this is trash, garbage for you. Get rid of it. But we don't know until we taste the fluffy puri. Then I know this chapati is nice. Right? So by tasting the higher experience of devotional activity, and you ask any practitioner, have you gained or lost? If they have lost, you'd ask the question, then why are you doing? Right? And the reason you'll do is because there's a tangible experience. Why someone would chant? Why somebody would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and chant? There must be some tangible experience that is incomparable.
Prabhuji, I got a question. Talk about control of senses. What happens if we lose association? Then that highest taste would not be strong enough, right? I mean, at that point of time.
Association is very, very important because association is like this cell phone, right? It needs to be associated with the battery to keep its power. As soon as that cell phone is disassociated from the battery, it begins to drain. Similarly, our devotional intensity, if we are for prolonged periods separated from association, our battery begins to weaken and eventually it'll die. So we have to keep plugging it in. That plugging it in is this repetition of association that gives us the strength, the faith, the knowledge, the confidence, and the encouragement. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny, but
No,
if
please.
you get up at 4:30 and chant, are you allowed to go back to bed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do that. Honestly. Absolutely.
So when we are chanting, what actually we are praying? What's the
What are we praying?
Yeah.
Well, we are calling out the names of the Lord, first of all. Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Hare is the invocative call out for Srimati Radharani. And we are glorifying the Lord. And we should chant in a prayerful mood. Srila Prabhupada guides us. So we should be chanting in a prayerful mind. But we know when we pray, we ask for something. Right? So now we should have intelligence to say, what should we ask for? $1 million, a nice dog, maybe a new car, or maybe love of Krishna. Now, love of Krishna is the highest thing one can acquire. There's nothing in the entire creation that compares to love of God. Now, we may not have faith in that yet. So our knowledge should take us to understand that. So we pray to Krishna. Krishna, I think that's theoretically probably right, but I don't feel it. Help me. Can you help me? In our chanting, we're praying to Krishna. Help me understand and love you. Let me understand my relationship with you. That way we can pray. We can pray, we can chant in a prayerful mood, glorifying the Supreme Lord. remembering his different pastimes, his different names, his qualities. So it's not an idle meditation, meaning of trying to empty the mind, but it's trying to channel the mind. Okay?
Yeah, but I was trying to understand the meaning. So when we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, so we are basically saying out the name of the Supreme. Is there any different meaning other than this name?
Yeah, no, okay. So, in spiritual means, the names of Krishna and Krishna himself are non-different. There's no difference. So, if I chant water, 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 there's a difference between chanting water and drinking water, right? Chanting water will not quench my thirst, because there's a difference. But chanting Krishna and being in direct association with him is non-different. Because that's just spiritual potency. His names, forms, pastimes, qualities are all one. So when we are chanting Krishna, we are directly associating with the Lord. He is dancing on our tongue. Because that's where the term Krishna is coming, is dancing on our tongue. So when we are chanting, what we are doing, we are associating with the Supreme Lord. Directly. Now we may not perceive it yet because of our impure senses. Our senses are impure. Like if I need contact lenses, I can't quite see through these eyes. I need to purify them. I need to put something in to see. So when I say Krishna, he's dancing on our tongue, but I don't see it. So the chanting process is our direct association with the Supreme Lord. And that association is extraordinarily purifying for the heart. That is the why. And it is the most powerful means of purifying in the soul. It's okay?
Can I ask one more?
Please.
So I understand Hare is represented as Srimati Radharani and then Krishna, and then in the next line we say Hare Rama. So what's the
So Rama refers to both Lord Ramchandra and Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is a source of our spiritual strength. And Lord Ramchandra we all know to be, the great king who showed us the path of ideal life. So we are calling out to those great. Lord Ram means the source of all pleasure. Lord Krishna means all attractive. So these are the meanings of these specific words. Hare is the energy of Krishna, who is manifested in Srimati Radharani and all of her expansions. So those are the.
Yeah, that was nice. I mean, nice lecture last weekend. They taught, they gave the explanation of what's Hare and what's
In the beginning of this.
the energy of Radharani.
Yeah, it's very detailed. And in the beginning of this, there's some discussion on the Mahamantra. And also Prabhupada has given some nice lectures. So maybe in a future session we can give a little bit more, it's a little bit elaborate discussion. Who is Radharani? This Haladini Shakti, this internal pleasure. It's a little bit technical, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have one
Please.
silly question.
No such thing as a silly question.
My parents do chant with beads, and the difference that I've seen there and here is we have a bag below the beads. So is it just so that the beads don't touch the ground?
Yeah, two reasons. A few reasons. Yeah, so we chant in the bag, one to protect the beads from falling on the ground, touching. There's also another practical reason we chant in the bead bag. So when I'm chanting like this, I am meditating on one thing. When am I going to finish? That's a very silly but practical realization.
Right.
So we chant in the bag to protect the beads, to keep them. So when we're chanting, we try not to keep them on the floor, on our feet. We put them in here. So like if it's here, you can kind of contain it versus if it's a long strand, you can strain out. So that's the main reason.
And we're really going to meet together every Thursday for the next few years to discuss I'm not complaining. I'm just asking.
If you are so kind enough that we may all get together on every Thursday for the rest of our lives, we'd be so fortunate. We'd be so fortunate.
I wish these sessions were a little bit more longer.
Well, we have sessions on Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays, so we have many. You're welcome to join any of those sessions. There's many wonderful discourses. But that thirst for association, that thirst for knowledge, is what will propel us forward. So,
Like we're all gonna get old together.
yeah. But I have news for you. We're all old already. We're millions and billions and trillions of years old. And that's a great segue into next week's verse. Next week we're going to discuss verse 212, in which Krishna says, "Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you. Never shall there cease a time that either of us shall exist." What the heck does that mean? We're eternal. We're, I don't know how many years old. You cannot put an age on eternal. But yes, we will grow old in these material bodies together if we are so fortunate, under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, and studying this, right? And trust me, we could cycle through this Bhagavad Gita 10, 100, 1,000 times, and each time it will taste fresher and fresher, more delicious, and more fulfilling than the last time. It's incredible. I have gone through this chapter 2 in this type of format I don't know how many times. And each time, just reading the verse today, so many more realizations came. And it'll happen for all of us.
This group's been together for 6 months almost.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Is it right? 6 months? Yeah, time flies. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
January,
almost 6
yeah,
months.
yeah. You're right. We started in early January. Wow.
It was my New Year's resolution.
Oh, yeah? Very nice. Well, yes, if we all pray together and follow, it'd be great. Can we chant today?